Hi everyone, my name is Jaser and I've played the piano for 18 years. And in this 18 years, I have made a lot of mistakes. If I could go back in time, I would do things pretty differently. So in this video, I'm going to share with you 7 things I would do differently. I want to save you the months and painful years of figuring out these mistakes so that you have a much nicer and smoother experience learning piano. I'm going to start from number 7 and work my way all the way to the most important thing, number 1, at the very end. So make sure you watch this video until the very end. Number 7 is to learn more music theory. And I think it's really important to learn more music theory because learning more music theory means you're going to get a lot better at sight reading. Because when you learn music theory, what you're learning is a whole bunch of scales and key signatures, arpeggios, time signatures, and all these things, they just really help you to see music with quite a different lens. I'm going to use the Mozart C major sonata as an example. If I had lots of music theory knowledge, I could first see that the right hand, that first 3 notes there is just a C major triad chord, right? And the left hand is a bunch of Alberti basses. So that's a C major, and that's the 5/7 inverted, okay? And the chord 4. So chord 4, 1. So when you have a good deal of music theory knowledge, you start to be able to chunk information and you stop to see music as individual notes, but groups of information that you can then process and play much, much faster. So when you see someone sight read a really complicated and amazing piece, and they do it really, really well, it's not so much that they are really good at computing and playing many, many individual notes, but it's more that what's happening in their brain is they have played that particular group of notes or that cluster of notes so many times that in their minds they're just performing one thing. So I've never learned this piece officially before, but before this video I took about half an hour just to study and analyze this piece. So this is kind of half sight reading and half practice for me. So if you look at this one, so I want to share with you, right, what's going on in my head. I play this. I'm not actually thinking about these notes as individual, like D, B, D, G, B. I'm not quite thinking about that. I'm more actually chunking it all into sort of one thing, but they're just broken up. That's a G chord, right? C chord. Different chords. G chord again. Even that. So for me to see this happen, all I see is the A minor chord, but it's just got this grace note before it. Right? That's the main bit, but it's got a grace note in there, so. So number 6 on the list of things I would tell my younger self to do would be not to only practice it until I get it right, but more to practice something until I can't get it wrong. So this is quite a rookie mistake that lots of people make. They play something many, many times wrong, and they sort of get one time finally after an hour. They finally got it right, and they think, oh, awesome, I finished my job. But it's not quite so simple. It's if you've got it wrong 99 times and you got it correct 1 time on your 100th time, well, statistically when you're on stage, you're more likely to still stuff up because you played 99 times wrong and only 1 time correct, right? So it's quite important to play it many, 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 many times correctly. So this is something that I tell a lot of my students. Practice until you can't get it wrong. Okay, going to number 5 is I would stop using so much pedal during my practice. I think pedal is really, really good for certain pieces of music. When you use it in performances, it's very effective. But when you're practicing, it's better just to not use it and just focus a little more on clarity. Okay, that's very, very important. When you take away the pedal, it makes your music very naked, and that's better because then you can see which areas you need to improve on. Because the thing is, if you use a lot of pedal in your practice, it covers up a lot of your mistakes, and you don't really realize they are mistakes until you record yourself and realize, oh my gosh, I'm not even playing half the notes. So take away the pedal, it'll do you many, many wonders. So number 4 on the list is to record yourself playing much, much more. Here's a thought that came to me recently. When you are practicing or performing, about 80% of your brain's energy is spent at trying to get the right notes, the right dynamics, the right articulation, so on and so forth. And only about 20% of your brain energy is allocated to listening to yourself, right? So because only 20% is allocated to listening to yourself, sometimes you don't realize there are certain parts that are not so clean, or maybe you're not actually playing some notes correctly, okay? It's really important to record yourself, because when you record yourself, you can listen to yourself from an audience perspective. And if you think about an audience member spends 100% of their energy simply just to listen. They're not worried about playing wrong notes, right? So it's so important for you to record yourself and listen to yourself as an audience so that you can spend 100% of your brain's energy analyzing what are the things you're doing well, what are the things that need better phrasing, what are the things that need to improve. So for example, something that comes to mind when I'm practicing this is this trill over here. So this one here. I currently think I'm not playing it as clean as I can. So as I'm playing right now, I am using about 80% of my energy to get the right notes, get the right phrasing, articulation, so on and so forth. And this trill is for me not so good yet. So what I should do in a second is watch this video you're watching right now. I want to watch it again, analyze my playing, and then try to refine it later. Okay, number 3 on the list is to follow the fingerings I see on the page. So one of the beginner mistakes that I see many people do is they play with very random fingerings. Okay, so sometimes when I see students play certain pieces, they can play it 5 times, and 5 of those times they're using different fingerings, and it's just bizarre to me, right? Because what you want to do is you want to establish the same fingering throughout your playing so that you build the correct muscle memory, and that helps you to memorize the piece faster, which means you play the piece easier as time goes by. Okay, so it's important to use the fingering. And the other note is that editors, they often have analyzed. So if you use sort of good editions like Henley or Peters or Paderewski, these editions have been edited by very professional pianists. So they're usually done in a way that makes the whole playing experience more effective. So that's something I would tell my younger self. I would follow the fingerings a little bit more strictly. Number 2 on the list is to practice more consistently. Now I know that sounds quite cliche, but this really is one of the factors that will turn you from good to great. Okay, so if you look on this graph here, okay, I'll just let you have a look there for a second, and you can see that if you simply do 1% better every day, after a whole year, it gets you to a mathematical value of 37.78. And if you're simply just 1% worse every day, mathematically, if you just keep timesing by itself, 0.99 times 0.99 times 0.99, and if you do that 365 times, it gets you a mathematical value of 0.03. Now, which one you want to be? Of course, we all want to be better, right? So you can see how if you simply are practicing and just improving by 1% every day, you're going to gain huge results. Getting down to a final thing now, and the final thing is to practice slower and more mindfully. Okay, I think too many people play a little too fast in their practice. It's so much better if you could just slow things down, focus on the small details as you are practicing. That's what practice is for. Practice is not for performing. Practice is for practicing, which means honing down on small little details so that when it's performance time, you can do a magnificent job. Just a thought I had recently. Playing slow and playing fast is actually very similar things, because the only difference with playing slow and playing fast is the amount of time between each note gets shorter when you play fast, right? So let's say we go into this one. So, right, that's essentially the same thing as. The only real difference is that the time between each note gets shorter when you play faster. So I recommend, if you're practicing, let's say this piece, to practice it much slower and try to make each note sound crystal clear. So the worst thing you want to hear is something like this. It's got to be one of the worst things to hear in a concert. So, okay, so make sure you're practicing slowly and with quality. And there you go, that sums up the 7 things I would do differently if I learned piano again. Which of these 7 can you relate to? Let me know in the comments below. Remember to like and subscribe to this channel for more piano tutorials. I'll catch you in the next one.